Welcome to INKOnversation, the podcast that fuels your entrepreneurial spirit, brought to you by INKOMOCO. We deliver thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders, game changers, and unsung heroes, all making an impact in their communities and shaping the future of business. Let's grow together and transform the world, one business at a time.
My name is William Gabonziza, and I serve as the Managing Director for INKOMOCO in South Sudan. We are honored and excited to speak with you today. Please share more about yourself and your current role within the Office of South Sudan Commission for Refugee Affairs.
Yes, my name is John Dabi. I work as the Deputy Commissioner for the Commission of Refugee Affairs, Ministry of Interior, Republic of South Sudan. It's an opportunity for us to interact this morning to share ideas about the refugee interventions and refugee investment in the country, which is related to the work that INKOMOCO is doing in South Sudan.
The Commission for Refugee Affairs was established by presidential decree and by South Sudan's Refugee Act 2012. Tell us more about the key pillars of the Commission and its overall mandate.
The Commission for Refugee Affairs is mandated to provide protection to the refugees and asylum seekers in the country. It's also mandated to provide oversight and monitoring of the interventions that support refugees in the country, and also to ensure durable solutions are developed and established for the refugees in the country. Those are some of the areas of our focus and areas of mandate that we undertake as a commission in this country.
South Sudan has recently acceded to both 1951 Convention on Refugees and 1967 Protocol. Can you elaborate more on that?
What it does is the convention provides you with international framework that helps you to provide protection, also using the national legal framework. The national legal framework was developed and passed by the Parliament in 2012, and it was drafted in the spirit of the 1951 Convention, which actually really gives us the mandate to provide protection. In relation to the whole region, you may talk of the IGAD region, which is 8 countries, and then you talk of East Africa Community, which is also 7 countries now, which South Sudan is a part of. We're trying to have a common policy related to refugees in order to address the challenges, because the regional context permits people of the same member states to move from one area to another without any restriction. The regional context is important when we're talking about the 1951 Convention in relation to the national legal frameworks, which is the Refugee Act in South Sudan.
During the World Refugee Day 2023, you have encouraged refugees to take advantage of opportunities offered by South Sudan's progressive refugee law. For those who may not be familiar, briefly, what are the opportunities offered by the South Sudanese refugee law?
The South Sudan Refugee Act 2012 actually emphasized a greater opportunity for refugees on self-reliance, on potential to seek opportunities for job, and they can seek job and work without any restrictions. They have freedom of movement. They have access to everything in terms of land to cultivate as a part of the livelihood activities that are built into the framework of the refugees. Currently, we host refugees. Actually, some are in the rural context and some are in the urban context. The rural context, we encourage them so far to cultivate through agricultural activities and production, and then be able to sustain food security and also to sell so that they become economically viable. Because what is happening is now the international community, like now the World Food has cut down food by 50%. Now that has affected the livelihood of the refugees. So we want the refugees to take the opportunity of the flexibility of our law to be able to build on this and become self-reliant, and then also make opportunity of business to empower themselves, and then to be able to pay school fees and actually contribute. And that's what you really would like to emphasize, so that become self-reliant. And that's more a dignity. A dignified refugee is a refugee who actually has potential and rights like any other citizen in the country. And that's primarily the basics for our legal framework, the Refugee Act 2012, which really provides an opportunity and space for refugees to become self-reliant, to have access to agricultural land. That's more of a durable solution, because when they go back, they go with something. They go with education, they go with the skills, they go with the resources, and so on. And also be able to integrate, like we talk now, actually the Congolese in Makondu, in Yambio, are more or less integrated, because they are all the same community from the Zande of Congo and then the Zande of South Sudan. They live together. There is a very good agricultural activity going on because the land is also very fertile. So that's the example I can give you in relation to the question you asked.
We have recently opened our first office in South Sudan to provide micro and small refugee and host community businesses with advisory services and access to finance. We have been lucky to engage with many innovative entrepreneurs who are growing businesses in different areas like retail sales, agribusiness, food processing. From your perspective, what are some of the key challenges entrepreneurs in refugee and host communities are facing? What are the recommendations do you believe will address one or two of those challenges?
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question. There are a lot of challenges facing not only the refugees, but all the South Sudan citizens in terms of business and entrepreneurship. First of all, really, the road conditions are so challenging. To go from one point A to point B takes a long time, and it's very expensive, so costly to travel within the country. But those who are established within the areas, like city centers like Juba, those ones we need to encourage them to build their skills, knowledge, and potentials to be able to go beyond the usual petty business, to have a bigger picture of what they can do as a business community to get more profit making, to also benefit the rest of the other refugees. Because I think if one refugee or two establish what we call cooperatives within their circles, they can be able to really perform. And with the help of INKOMOC plans that really started last year towards the end of the year, I think we can do a lot. And then I think we can help many more refugees venture into sustainable business projects, and that will help the refugees, and also the host community can learn from them, because I think the host community is also involved in the microfinancing. Then both communities can then work together and learn from each other and be able to sustain their business and be able to benefit their communities and the children and learning in schools, for instance.
In the recent Global Refugee Forum that took place in Geneva, December 2023, the government of South Sudan shared its 6 pledges and requested a collective action and matching support from humanitarian, development, peace actors, civil society members in order to achieve those pledges. Please share with the audience about the commitment of the government of South Sudan and then the collective action needed from the stakeholders.
Right. The pledges was 6 that South Sudan committed itself to ensure in the next 4 years. One is peace building, which is a very important key priority in the country. The second one is education, quality, improving quality and expanding space for more children from refugees to enroll. The third one is actually livelihood, and that's where your institution really comes in strongly to support this particular pledge. And then the fourth one is about climate change, which is a global context. And you've seen of late how the whole world is now embracing this particular concept to avoid, or particular event to avoid the challenges of climate change, flooding, and drought, and so on. The fifth one was actually to do with documentation and machine-readable documents, so that the refugees who are engaged in business can have access to ID cards that they can use in the banking's financial systems. And that's where I think I wanted to emphasize your institution coming in to work with the business community, the entrepreneurs, to be able to establish with the Ministry of Interior the perspective of having, ID cards which are machine readable, or passports, this CTD, which are machine readable. Because without that, then they cannot use for business, they cannot have loan in the bank, they cannot even, be able to bank their profits and so on. So I think the main area of your focus are two issues of ID cards, which are really can be used in the financial institutions, plus the livelihood context, because the livelihood context, and I think your investment should be really focusing on the livelihood of the community, of the refugees, and training them and building their skills so that it's become a holistic approach. And then should not also just be, piecemeal intervention. It should be linked to the whole process of the GRF, which the government is running, so that in the future, if you run out of resources or you are not there anymore, the sustainability will be felt, and then you can sustain this through the development context of the government intervention.
As we wrap up, could you share a personal insight or a success story that reflects the positive impact of the efforts to support and protect refugees in South Sudan?
The successful stories actually about hosting refugees and protecting refugees in the country are many. You can cite several examples, but I'm going to focus on three. The first one is really the legal frameworks allows refugees to have a freedom of business, freedom of movement, freedom of chances and opportunities to do their own things. And then it also allows refugees to get jobs within South Sudan without intensive or restriction on job permits. So that's a very positive thing that refugees in South Sudan enjoy. The second thing is that there is a lot of opportunity for livelihood, and this can be used by refugees and then by partners to support the government to ensure that refugees are self-reliant and that dignified. So I want to emphasize this dignified context. And then the third one is really the refugees in South Sudan do not stay in the camps like they are restricted. There is an integrated approach to our management or settlement of refugees. So they live alongside the host communities. And that's paramount because then they feel they are part of the community. They have the same medical facilities, same schools, same opportunities, and same environment, and they live together. The peaceful coexistence that is between them. And because simply the South Sudanese, many of them were refugees before, so they are coming back to start the country. They see anybody coming as a refugee that they will not deprive the person or make them undignified. They really make sure refugees are well cared for. And that's a typical example you can see now. Even the people from onward movers who came from Kakuma towards the end of last year, they are well accommodated, they were taken care of. They were not deported back to Kakuma, although they were refugees from already in Kakuma registered. Because our regional context says once you are registered in one of the countries, according to East African Community, unless you have a family reunion issue, then you can't move from one area to another. But if you move freely to another country, then there must be a reason. So we as South Sudanese have accommodated this group. So those are really some of the practical testimony and positive aspect of hosting refugees in South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Honorable John Dabi, for your time. It was a very exciting podcast, and we are so excited to share with our audience. And as INKOmoko in South Sudan, we are so committed to cooperate and to work closely with the Commission for Refugee Affairs as a partner. Thank you so much for it.
At INKOmoko, we're dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs across Africa with the tools, resources, and knowledge they need to flourish in today's competitive business landscape. Now we're bringing that passion to this podcast, taking you on a journey through inspiring stories from around the globe.